nurse. I am not a pharmacist. I do help people navigate the healthcare system because I've had my own problem with a chronic illness and I have had perimenopause symptoms for a very long time. I'm in the unique position to be able to help people to understand what they need to do to access these resources. But it's not a substitute for talking to your doctor. So I do recommend exercise, and probably we'll talk about diet as well, because that does affect how we feel. And supplements are a good option, perhaps, for most people to try something, especially with the vitamins and minerals that we seem to be deficient in. Um, but this is from my personal experience. So your experience might be different. I'm not really speaking for your partner exactly. I'm trying to make sure that you can understand an overall picture of what's probably happening for 80% of the women who are over 35. Okay, this is from the support group. So I started CPMS about 3 years ago, a little bit more than. And I started because I wanted to talk about perimenopause. But what I was finding is my friends didn't want to talk about it. And that could be part of what's going on in the relationship that you're having now. Even though you might have a really great relationship and communication lines might be open, it's very, very hard for a lot of us to talk about this stuff because it involves periods and bleeding and cramps and feeling uncomfortable. And we have been trained to not talk about it. So we don't want to make you uncomfortable. I don't want to make you uncomfortable, but you do need to know about it because that is what's happening. That's what's going on right now. Our information that we can get easily is largely UK and US based. And that's a problem because we're in Canada, right? So what we can get and how we can get it and what it's called is different. And this is by request. So hopefully, I am really hoping that your partner is watching this with you. The best way to communicate about this stuff is if I say something that gets you curious or seems weird or doesn't seem possible, or you think that could possibly be what's happening and something that's been confusing or a reoccurring problem that's come up, stop the video and talk about it a little bit and see if you can't come to a better understanding, because understanding is what will ultimately bring couples together or pull them apart. And what I would like to see is every woman going through perimenopause taking the time and the energy and the effort to thoroughly explain what she's going through, because it's so weird. It's so weird for us going through it. And we feel so crazy that trying to explain it to someone else can seem pretty impossible. So I always like to take a moment and just appreciate the wonders of technology. I'm here in Alberta. You might be anywhere across Canada, or even I think that this is going to end up being seen by people in the States and in the UK, just because there is a lack of information and the way that I present things is so simple, just to the point and not a lot of fluff about it. And people like that. It's easy to understand. I talk in common language. What has happened to my beautiful bride? I had a doctor say that to me where we were talking about the perimenopause that I was going through. And the first symptom that I want to mention is anxiety. So I do have an anxiety disorder. It has been diagnosed. I was treating it through all natural lifestyle and diet. And then suddenly, as I got closer to 50, my anxiety went through the roof, like crazy through the roof. And I really needed medical help. So luckily, I'm very fortunate. I have doctors that I trust. And one of my doctors said, um, it's interesting for them, as I was talking about what I'm going through, that he's watching his wife change and all he sees is his beautiful bride. So for us going through it, we feel like that little cave woman, banging a stick on the ground and not getting through to anybody, and feeling really misunderstood and not understanding ourselves. And what the women need to realize is you still look amazing. Your partner loves you. They are still into you and you're amazing still. You're a great person. Um, We just don't feel great. And I'm going to explain why. This is a picture of me and my husband, who I did ask if he wanted to participate, and he said no. He's very shy. Well, he's not really shy, but he's introverted and he takes his time warming up to people. Um, and he didn't really want to end up being like in trouble with the guys for telling them his take on it, that your jokes aren't funny anymore, which is not true. His jokes are still funny. The difference is I might be so distracted by sensations in my body and anxiety that I'm having and the trouble that I had sleeping and whatever is going on with me, that his funny little joke that I used to definitely notice and laugh over, I don't notice anymore. I don't even hear the joke. That's what's happening. So the progression will happen for all of us. And the hormones are in a dance and they move in a certain way throughout our lives, and it's very predictable. And then what happens for us is that it changes and it's no longer predictable. So we're going to talk about what happens for the female, what the experiences might look like. As I said before, I may mention symptoms that your partner doesn't have, and that's okay. I'm glad. But they may have other symptoms that I'll probably get to. I'm going to try to cover as much of them as I can in this lecture. But there's a big sense of disorientation of who am I now? Because, I'm not as quick to laugh and I'm not enjoying myself and I'm really anxious about stupid things that don't matter. We're going to talk a little bit about female sexuality. I have a whole class on female sexuality and the changes that can happen and different things that could potentially help. That's designed for women, but I suggest that you guys watch it together as a couple again. It's only $25, and it's made a big difference for the people that have checked it out. It is general, though, like all of my classes. It's not specific. If you want one-on-one help, I can do that, and I am perfectly happy to help couples. I've done it before. Breath work is something that's really important, and I'm talking specifically about yoga, and the sexual response is helped by any kind of exercise. We'll talk about why. Specific symptoms, I want to get into the specifics of what it can look like, how it can feel, and what kind of things you may do to help them through those changes. So I just want to